Hi, everybody. My name is Yaman Tazdevar, and I bring you daily updates on Tesla, tech, and the markets. Let's get started. Markets are overall up 2% today. Dow Jones is up 1.6, Nasdaq is up 2.3%. You can see here that all sectors are up today. Nvidia is up 3%. That's going to announce earnings tomorrow after market close, and we're going to dig into that today. Tesla is up 6%. Other Mac 7 companies are also up 2-3%. Let's review our daily article. Wall Street rises more than 1% as Trump backs down on EU tariffs. Wall Street stock climbed on Tuesday after US President Donald Trump stepped back from his threat to impose 50% tariffs on the EU, easing trade tensions and boosting sentiment as market reopened after the Memorial Day break. On Sunday, Trump restored a July 9 tariff deadline to allow for talks between Washington and the 27-nation European bloc. He had initially threatened EU tariffs on Friday alongside announcements of higher levies on Apple's iPhones. The threat of 50% tariffs on the EU is likely a negotiation tactic to force dialogue on difficult issues such as non-tariff barriers, Glenn Mead analyst said in a note. Asian and European markets were mixed after rising on Monday, although moves in the US assets were more pronounced as traders returned after the long weekend. All sectors were higher, as we discussed. Long-dated US Treasury yields dipped, while those on the 30-year note were set for their biggest one-day fall since mid-April, mimicking a steep price rally in longer-term Japanese debt. An index tracking consumer confidence rose to 98 in May, a conference board report showed. Economists polled by Reuters had expected the index to stand at 87. A number of Fed officials are expected to speak through the week. Minneapolis Fed President Neil Kashkari on Tuesday called for holding interest rates steady until the impact of higher tariffs on inflation became clear. Personal consumption expenditure data, the Fed's favorite inflation indicator, for May, as well as a second estimate for first quarter GDP, are also scheduled to be released later this week. Wall Street witnessed sharp weekly losses on Friday as worries about mounting US debt and Trump's latest trade policy shakeup sparked a broad sell-off. His sweeping tax bill, which is expected to substantially expand federal debt, won a crucial House vote last Thursday. Equities have witnessed immense volatility since the start of the year, with the S&P 500 falling 19% in April from February record highs. However, it's mostly recovered. Temu parent PDD Holdings dropped 15% after reporting a 47% fall in first quarter profit and missed quarterly revenue estimates. Advancing issues outnumbered decliners by 5-to-1 ratio on the NYSE and by a 3-to-1 ratio on the NASDAQ. Let's switch to NVIDIA. NVIDIA is expected to announce earnings tomorrow after market close. I believe the earnings consensus estimate is somewhere in the 70s, low 80s, but the earnings whisper is supposed to be higher. I published a report today. It's on my pinned post on my X profile, and you can find the article there. I expect NVIDIA to miss on revenue and earnings, despite having forecasts having declined in recent months by a substantial amount. So I discussed all of that in the article. I also discussed Microsoft's internal chip development efforts and compare it to NVIDIA. And you can find that in my article, in my pinned post. A couple of articles to highlight that happened in the last couple of months that I don't think they got enough attention. Microsoft pulls back on data centers from Chicago to Jakarta. Microsoft has pulled back on data center projects around the world, suggesting the company is taking a harder look at its plans to build the server farms powering AI and the cloud. The software company has recently halted talks for or delayed development of sites in Indonesia, the UK, Australia, Illinois, North Dakota, and Wisconsin, according to people familiar with this situation. And as we all know, Microsoft has been the top customer of NVIDIA, and sometimes as high as 20% of their revenues. And top 4 or 5 customers comprise about half of the data center revenue NVIDIA has today. And the second biggest customer is Meta. An exclusive article a couple months ago highlighted Meta begins testing its first in-house AI training chip. Facebook owner Meta is testing its first in-house chip for training AI systems, a key milestone as it moves to design more of its own custom silicon and reduce reliance on external suppliers like NVIDIA, two sources told Reuters. The world's biggest social media company has begun a small deployment of the chip and plans to ramp up production for wide-scale use if the test goes well, the sources said. I'm going to dig into more in these articles in a separate video that's going to be published on YouTube later today. Amazon undercuts NVIDIA pricing by 25%, leveling market for simpler inferencing tasks. Servers powered by AWS Trainium chip could democratize access for enterprises looking to experiment with AI, but who can't get access to or afford NVIDIA's infrastructure. We're seeing a similar approach from Amazon and Microsoft. I think Microsoft is about a year behind Amazon. Amazon is already doing really well. They really catapulted to where NVIDIA, pretty much where NVIDIA is in the last 2-3 years, after having trailed by a few years. Again, I'm going to dig into these articles and then some in a separate video that's going to be published on my YouTube channel. And recommend following and liking and replying, leaving a comment. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you very much, everybody. And I will chat with you all next time. Take care.